29 teams, 15 automatic bids, 14 at large. Now, out of the 29, the top three overall seeds, they get to scoot right past the first round automatically into the second round. So let's find out who those three teams are going to be. And let's face it, no surprise at the top. Number one team in the country all season long, more or less. The lone undefeated team in the country, the North Carolina Tar Heels, the ACC champions. And they will lead us off tonight. The top-seeded Tar Heels, again, not a lot of drama here, not a lot of surprise.
Yeah, I think they knew that was coming, but it was huge. The ACC tournament ending last night in the championship, the Tar Heels coming away with a really dominant performance. It was a little dicey in the first quarter, but they pulled and showed why they were the number one team in the nation.
You know, they were in this spot a year ago, Rachel. When you take a look at North Carolina, they lost in that semifinal. The Tar Heels trying to go through for a full perfect season and end the champions. Number two seed, the Big Ten champs, the Maryland Terrapins, they jumped Boston College on the last committee reveal. Maryland, number two.
The 15-time national champions behind the stellar goalie play of Emily Sterling, Hannah Lubecker, Rory Cordingley, the grad transfer from Johns Hopkins, and anchoring the D is Abby Bosco. Terrapins are looking to get back on top.
Okay, so we got North Carolina 1, Maryland 2, and again, not a real surprise with these top three teams. Number 3 is the reigning national champions, Boston College, Charlotte North and Company, clocking it at number 3, Sheehan.
Yeah, Boston College came in second to UNC in last night's ACC championship, which they were looking to get that ACC tournament trophy. So a bit disappointing, but I know that Acacia Walker is going to have her team ready to go. So many stars. You mentioned Charlotte North. Everyone knows her. Jen Medjid is phenomenal. Cassidy Weeks, Belle Smith, so many lists of stars there. And then their defense has been playing very strong.
As we get a live look at Chestnut Hill, the reigning national champions, the Eagles of Boston College getting revealed as the number 3 seed in this year's tournament.
Yeah, right there, just like, this is old hat to us.
You know what? In full transparency, they're probably not happy that they're not the 2 seed. Even though they lost yesterday to North Carolina, I think Boston College believes they should have been that number 2 seed. Rachel, what do you think of the top 3?
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina is no surprise. We all knew that was coming. But BC, Maryland, I went back and forth on this. I think the loss to UNC last night is ultimately what pushed Maryland ahead of BC. But all year, BC was in that number 2 slot. So I think you're right, Jay. They may be disappointed with that number 3 seed tonight.
And Sheehan, we're only 3 teams in, 26 still to go here. What's your storyline as we look forward to the rest of the reveal?
I'm really looking forward to see who's that number 4 spot. I think we knew the top 3 for sure, but that 4 seed over the last 10 days, we thought it could be Northwestern, could be Duke, could be maybe Rutgers with their upset win over Northwestern. So really interested to see where that goes.
Time to get the 26 teams who we haven't heard their names yet. And the other seeded team in the Tar Heels region, the Stony Brook Sea Wolves.
Stony Brook, while getting an 8 seed, I don't think Joe Spallina is going to be quite happy with that 8. He was thinking more 5 to 7 bracket. They could have landed anywhere. They have had a great season behind sophomore sensation Ellie Macera. Big wins over Princeton and Florida. Stony Brook, America East champs for so long now, obviously not getting that automatic bid this year. Bid stealers. We'll see how far Stony Brook can go this year.
They will host this mini pod, and their first round matchup against Drexel, the Colonial Athletic champions. So that's an excellent first round matchup. And then in that pod with them, you're going to have the Rutgers Scarlet Knights taking on St. Joe's, the A10 champs. This is their first appearance in the history of the tournament.
A huge win for St. Joe's in their conference tournament. Win over Richmond and UMass, 2 of the names that we've heard a lot in lacrosse. So amazing for them. And Rutgers, I mean, I am shocked actually to see that they weren't seeded right now. There's no number behind their name. Been playing absolutely phenomenal. Melissa Lehman leading the charge there. They've just got a great crew. And when you watch them play and upset Northwestern in the Big Ten.
Look at that reaction.
You like who you're playing? Good. Great to see some excitement. Titi Nozlansky, Cassie Spillis, and Megan Ball, all superstars.
I think the first reaction is what you said. How are we not one of those 8 teams that are seeded? So instead, unseeded, tough path for the Scarlet Knights. Got to go through Stony Brook, got to go through North Carolina, and then the matchup to who will play North Carolina in the second round. You have Virginia against USC out of the Pac-12.
Virginia, last weekend, they had a must-win situation in the ACC tournament to get that 500 record, continue their streak, 26 straight NCAA tournaments. They won when they needed to most. They will see USC in the first round.
She had a lot of debate who was going to be the 4 seed. A lot of teams The committee decides the Northwestern Wildcats despite that Big Ten semifinal loss.
Which I am shocked when you look at that, just the resume, having that late season loss against Rutgers. But they are tons of talent. Number one, Lauren Gilbert has an amazing first step, can score basically at will. Just a lot of talent out there. They're very strong in the draw. Jill Girardi is phenomenal. Just end to end. They're one of those teams, you know they're going to give you their best effort. They're gritty and they fight hard.
Absolutely. Erin Kuykendall, you see they're one of the best feeders in the game this year.
Who's going to be the 5 seed in Northwestern's quarter? Kayla Trainer, Syracuse Orange, first-year head coach coming in. Syracuse, number 5.
You just heard Sheehan talk about that 4 seed with Northwestern. If Syracuse hadn't lost to Virginia last weekend, that 4 seed was theirs. Unfortunately, losing in the ACC tournament, still seeded. Kayla Trainer has done a great job with this year with a lot of injuries. We'll see how far the Orange can go.
A lot of teams they have to beat, but if Syracuse and Northwestern were to get to the quarterfinal, that's a rematch of last year's national semifinal with Syracuse won. The Orange taking on the Fairfield Stags in the first round. Moving through this Northwestern quarter, UMass clocking in. They've had an excellent regular season.
UMass getting that at-large bid in the A10. Some thought that they were going to win the tournament. Obviously, they didn't get that automatic qualifier, but got the at-large. Playing my Princeton Tigers, Chris Saylor's final year. Tigers 14-3, won the Ivy Championship today against the Yale Bulldogs. They are excited.
It's weird not to see them in orange.
The seats are orange, I think, but they're not in orange. So, yeah, absolutely. Tigers are fired up.
Cool to see Kyla Sears also get the career points record at Princeton scoring.
Quick note, and it's really interesting. Princeton is actually going to host that pod. Syracuse, Fairfield, UMass, Princeton. Usually the seeded team would host, but the Carrier Dome being used for graduation. So Princeton going to host. That's a huge advantage for the Tigers. Notre Dame, they're in the women's bracket, not the men's. That was a huge controversy. And we didn't know if the Irish would get in. They had to win in that ACC tournament to do it, and they did.
It was amazing how many of these conference tournaments, they must-win games. Notre Dame was one of them. Jackie Rolock was sensational. Bridget Dehan and Cage, and they're going to play Michigan, Big Ten team. So, again, just one of those teams that wasn't really sure, one of those bubble teams. I'm sure is happy to hear their name.
And then playing Northwestern, give some love to Central Michigan, another team, the Chippewas, making their first ever appearance in the NCAA tournament.
How cool for them. First time ever in the NCAA championship. Memories that won't last a lifetime for those athletes.
Boston College, the reigning national champs, they're the 3 seed. Who's going to be in the Eagles quarter? Let's go down to the 6 seed, where it's Loyola, Maryland, 19-1. They have had an excellent season.
Only loss coming to Syracuse. Livy Rosenzweig has just done an amazing job. What an absolute feeder. Jillian Wilson, so much talent. Jen Adams and Dana Dobie there have done a great job with the Loyola Greyhounds.
And the Greyhounds will take on Mount St. Mary's. That's a first-round matchup. As every team trying to just survive, keep the dream alive for another day. And then a couple of bubble teams coming up here. You know, who will it be? We got James Madison and UConn. How about the Huskies squeaking into the field? They lost to Georgetown in the Big East tournament, but UConn did enough to earn a spot.
Sydney Watson in the midfield. She is so fun to watch. UConn was definitely a bubble team going into tonight. Glad to see they're in for a second year, taking on James Madison, who, because they're transferring conferences, didn't get to compete in that CAA tournament. So there was really one less at-large bid available this year. The 2018 reigning champs looking to repeat. They're excited here. Just a few years ago, brought home the national championship. And obviously, some of those athletes are still there. They remember that moment. They want to get back there again this year.
And what I think is important about that, too, they don't like being called a Cinderella story. They believe they could win that national championship. They want to be back in the conversation this year.
So Boston College awaiting the winner of Denver, the Big East champions, winning in overtime, dramatic fashion yesterday. And Denver taking on Vermont, who won the America East automatic qualifier. That's usually not available. Usually that belongs to Stony Brook. Another team like James Madison couldn't compete in the postseason tournament.
And Vermont was down 5 goals to Albany to make that comeback and get that AQ. And Denver with a major overtime win against Georgetown. That was a crazy game.
Feel like auctioneers. If we're talking fast, that's because we still got one more quarter to go, trying to fill out all 29 teams. We go down to Maryland's quarter, the number 2 seed, Kathy Reese's Terps. the 7 seed, the last seeded team to reveal, the Florida Gators.
Florida gets that AQ from the American. Just Emma Lapinto, Danielle Pavanelli, very strong, aggressive team. Just one of those teams that can make some waves.
Florida with a win this season over Syracuse, I think ultimately kind of bumped them up probably into a seeded spot, winning their conference championship. But, you know, they can compete. Emma Lapinto is absolutely excellent. So when they are firing on all cylinders, Florida is a team that you don't want to see early in the tournament.
Florida lost to Stony Brook head-to-head. Stony Brook 8, Florida 7. Gators taking on Mercer in that first round as we keep moving in the Maryland quarter. You got Stanford. That's a bid stealer out of the Pac-12. Probably needed to win that conference championship, and they did.
Yeah, Pac-12, you know, the talent you see in Pac-12 with Stanford, USC, Arizona State, that conference gets more competitive year after year.
Taking on Jacksonville. Winner of that game will meet Florida or Mercer. And then final at-large teams to reveal. Johns Hopkins making it in to the tournament.
You know the Blue Jays and Coach Janine Tucker have to be so excited. Another one of those teams that didn't know their state of affairs towards the end of the season. Some must-win games. They got some huge wins against Ohio State and Penn State. So they've got to be thrilled to be in the field. Blue Jays are in.
Yeah, they don't know it yet. In Coach Tucker's final season. This is her final season, retiring after. Look at the nerves in that room.
Wait for it.
This is what it is all about.
Oh, that is so awesome. Coach Janine Tucker, her final season. What an incredible moment.
I have chills.
Amazing. Shelby Harrison has been so amazing. Annika Meyer, Jeannie Kakris. Just they needed the games to win, and they succeeded.
And the final team in the field, the Duke Blue Devils, will face off with Johns Hopkins. So 6 teams in for the ACC entering the tournament. We thought only 4.
Yeah, and, you know, Duke has got to be thrilled to be in as well. We thought they were going to be higher, though, actually, if they hadn't lost in that ACC tournament. But Maddie Jenner leading the way with the draw controls, does such a fantastic job there. Kat Berry, Kate DeSimone just do a fantastic job.
So with the bracket now revealed, let's welcome in NCAA Committee Chair Michael Scerbo. And Michael, I don't envy you at all. Extremely difficult job. So many deserving teams. Could you just walk our audience through the last 4 in, the last 4 out, and what separated those teams on the cut line?
Absolutely, Jay. Thank you. Our last 4 in our selection process this year, we had, in no particular order, UConn, Hopkins, UMass, and Michigan. Our last 4 out, or our first 4 out, were Temple, Arizona State, Yale, and Ohio State.
And what separated those teams?
The biggest difference that we saw there were the actual wins that each of the teams were able to have in the course of their resume. We evaluated everything from their full body of work, and we felt that the teams that we chose won where we needed them to win and won consistently.
So every year you only seed those top 8 teams. 7 of those 8 this year are hosting the first and second rounds. The one team that isn't is Syracuse. They had a graduation conflict. Princeton now subs in, even though the Tigers are unseeded, to host the first and second rounds. Why was Princeton chosen in Syracuse's absence?
Well, Jay, when we built the bracket, we did our best to stay within the parameters as set forth by the NCAA, limiting the number of flights. But in doing so, we also wanted to be as true as possible to a truly seeded tournament from top to bottom, from 1 through 29. However, when we looked at it and we placed teams in, that's how things settled, so that Syracuse would go to Princeton, and had Syracuse been able to host, we would have had Princeton going to Syracuse.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the time and the insight.
Thank you, Jay.